I was putting together a design for a long, narrow living room from way back when suddenly I saw a sofa that changed the whole game. But I better start from the beginning. Let me tell you about it. I'm Doug Walker, and this is Roominess. Roominess brings you straightforward steps to an inviting home. Click the subscribe button for more bite-sized decor advice. You can find freebies, newsletters, and ebooks over on my website. Have you ever had a chance to go back and fulfill a childhood fantasy? As a kid, I wanted to move into my grandparents' house so I could give it a makeover. Recently, the light bulb flicked on in my head. Why don't I do that for Roominess? You see, my grandparents raised 6 children in a big brick 1923 American 4-square house. It had fantastic woodwork and built-ins, French doors with beveled glass panes, grand arched openings into the living room, and solid natural cherry wood doors with early Art Deco details. The house had boatloads of style potential. However, my grandmother, beloved matriarch and fantastic cook, was in no one's mind a decorator. The eventual layout of the living room included a TV on a cart in front of the fireplace and a recliner that sat both in front of the entry and directly behind another recliner. What the room always did well was to hold a lot of people at parties, especially when we were singing around the piano. You did what around the piano? So where to start? First, I want to see the room empty. I know, the moldings are missing. The room has beautiful elements, but we can already start to see some challenges. You can see the room was long and narrow enough not to let a sofa sit comfortably in the short direction. Plus, it had 3 doors arranged in a way that foot traffic cut off half the room. Next, let's talk about function. What all am I planning to do in the room? Now, I may be cheating, but I'm not planning to include a TV in the makeover. My grandparents had plenty of space for that somewhere else. So for the remaining functions of the room, big family gatherings, visiting, reading, and playing or listening to piano, can we get all that to attractively fit into this narrow space? And if I can't do that, do I need to stop giving out decor advice on the internet? I've been telling you that for years. For sake of argument, we could put the piano on the long wall. But I think you'll agree there's really no place else for the sofa to go in that situation. So the piano and sofa stay in their traditional positions. I scooch the sofa out a couple of inches from the wall. Depending on where you place other chairs in the room, you could end up with foot traffic cutting through the conversation grouping. Is that solvable? While trying out different chairs in the space, I landed on placing a chair adjacent to the sofa. This forces traffic to the edge of the conversation circle. I like that plan a lot better. So what style should I use? My childhood idea was to do something much more formal and straight-laced, definitely brighter. Probably something we would call transitional today. I pulled various rug and sofa combinations to see how they would look in the room. I already changed out the carpet for wood flooring and refaced the fireplace with terracotta tiles. Perfectly matched and formal combinations were leaving me uninspired. Then I found this combination of a casually patterned blue rug and a vintage sofa with damask fabric. That's when things took a turn. These two don't quite go together, but in a way that reminded me of Grandma. Maybe 2 patterns she would pull together to make a quilt. And I thought, what if I made a room that my grandparents could actually live in? Something that would feel like home to them. Considering they've been gone for 20 years, they probably won't argue with you. I decided the style should be collected, quirky, and vintage, with a hint of bohemian. So what about colors? I only had a few hints from the choices so far. Playing off the rug, I wanted to bring blue and yellow into the room to brighten it up. Playing off the woodwork, we could bring in browns, dark reds, and even some purple. A style and color direction is great, but how do we help this long and narrow room to not feel long and narrow? Here, we can use a color trick on the fireplace wall. I always wanted the fireplace to get the star treatment it deserved. A dark color on the end wall will give it more visual presence and bring it more into the space. I experimented with various wall treatments. What I hit on was this gorgeous leather wall covering. I might have used a dark wood cabinet in the nook by the fireplace to mirror the other side, but this painted antique cabinet was just so quirky I couldn't give it up. Now, the room still has this long, flat expanse of wall above the sofa. How do you make that less imposing? This is one of the answers I came up with as a kid. Give the wall more dimension. Multiple frames will break up the expanse of flat wall. If the frames are chunky, then they will pull focus and the wall fades away. I tried this oversized set of prints in one iteration of the space, but their scale was just way too big for the room. I settled on this set of 6 mirrors. The mirrors themselves create a sense of depth as well. The spare corner created by the sofa and the entry is a great place for a grandfather clock, again breaking up the wall. The last challenge. I didn't want to give up my grandparents' ability to have a big family gathering and fill up the living room. How do you create more seating without crowding the living room with furniture? My answer is to make your occasional furniture part of your everyday decor. The vintage quirky theme actually made this a lot easier. I included a variety of pieces that could double as art, tables, and accessories. When your occasional seating blends into your decor like this, then your room is attractive whether you have 1 person or 20. I incorporated seating for 11 or 12. Also notice that I used an upholstered rocker adjacent to the sofa. Even though it reads as a main seating piece, it can slide easily on the rug to open up the room to address the piano. A couple of stuffed animals provide a finishing touch. These are accessories my grandmother often used. This process was a challenge, and it changed my perspective on my grandparents' home. I can appreciate that it is a difficult space to arrange. I experimented with lots and lots of furniture to find a grouping that felt both collected over time and cohesive. Ultimately, the design was based on fundamentals that we've talked about on Roominess from the beginning. Pull focus to the center of the space and address foot traffic and proportion issues head on. The real fun was to get a kind of closure on a childhood fantasy room to see how it might turn out. Now, suppose you cannot move your TV out of the room with the fireplace. How do you deal with that? Have a look at this video. You should watch. It's short. I'll see you there.